This is why we can't have nice things. I grew up in a beautiful white sand beach town nestled on the backs of Native and Spanish history. You were adopted, my brother hissed. No, I wasn't, I cried. It's true, my sister confirmed. Yeah, we found you in a dumpster, and Mom and Dad made us take you home. You just don't remember because you were a baby, June said with certainty. I stopped arguing. The only way they would allow this interaction to end was with me crying and running to my room. My siblings teased me about everything. My lopsided butt, my ability to kill all my pets, and how I cried every time they would chant "cry baby" at me. I learned early on not to listen to them. Still, this idea of being adopted stuck with me, long after elementary, middle, and high school. It became an uncertain fact, a theory and an evolving origin story developed by trying to understand my place in my family. My mother is Mexican. My father is white. My siblings, unlike myself, were both very fair. They, like my father, had been born blonde, a fact my mother was quick to brag about. In fact, my mother was also very fair. Sometimes when she would speak Spanish, it would surprise people. But you don't even look Mexican, is effectively what I remember them saying. As a child, I admired my mother's talent, looking white while being Mexican. I too wanted that. I wanted to trick people like that. During the summers, I would tan and tan, as my immediate family and friends would all apply sunscreen and still get sunburned. And though I often tried to make them jealous of my superior skin, I couldn't help but feel left out. I wanted so badly to get sunburned. I would watch them as they would writhe, sticky with their pink and red backs shining, covered in aloe. Why couldn't that be me? Mom, I think you better put some aloe on me too, I would say, staring up at her perfect nose and cheeks, all pink and shiny with sun damage. My mother's nickname for me was Morena. As explained to me, simply put, it meant brown. The older I grew, the more it became clear I didn't fit in my family. It's not like they were so different from me or that they couldn't understand me. I just never felt fully acknowledged. Family exchanges often felt like interactions of the first day of school. After everyone else has done their long summation, they didn't have time for me to contribute mine. It was clear to me that I must be different from them somehow. And to me, my brownness seemed to have been the culprit. I began to think, maybe I really am adopted. I'm brown, I'm darker than them. I didn't look like my family very much. But how could I be adopted? I'd watched enough daytime television to know that only wealthy white people adopted. And although we weren't poor, we definitely were not wealthy. I'd also heard many jokes about a Mexican woman's ability to have babies. So that didn't fit the equation. Nothing was adding up. But it didn't keep me from thinking I somehow was not a natural part of this family. During winter and summer vacations, my parents would have me stay with my tia Melinda. Although I'm sure it was only for weeks out of the year, it felt like months. My aunt had 3 children, a baby girl, a boy a year younger than I, and a daughter about 4 years older, who lived with her foster family the next town over. My tia lived in a town that felt like hell on earth, Bakersfield, California. Normally, during my stays, Tia Melinda's oldest daughter, Anita, would also be staying with us. It puzzled me that Anita would come and visit her birth mother, Melinda, even though she had a foster family who had taken her in since birth. Also, her foster family was awesome. They had a farm and every kind of farm animal, even goats. Why would she ever leave that? I hated visiting my aunt. Her apartment was small, hot, and because she often moved, unfamiliar. Every visit, she would promise me that we would do something fun together, like going to the fair, but we never did. Most of our time together was spent going to church. Otherwise, I was to be her helper. I would clean, cart groceries, cook with her, and take care of my baby cousin Jasmine. And since she didn't have a car, we had to walk everywhere. Often on these walks, I imagined my siblings and parents mini-golfing or at a water park having a family fun time. When I would walk for what seemed like miles under a boiling sun, this seemed like a punishment made for only this town. My tia was a strict woman and quick to spank us with her chancla if we so deserved it. She was deeply religious, and despite her immense efforts, I remained unsaved, although I would never disclose that to her. I couldn't get into it. How could I accept a man who died for my sins into my heart? How could one person's death assume all of the sins of every other person? None of these words would ever make sense. But when the time came to hold up my hands in church and speak aloud to God, as everyone else did, I did too. One evening, I was alone in her living room watching TV when John Waters' Serial Mom came on. My aunt found me watching this demon movie. She turned it off and began blessing the house with holy water. I couldn't believe she thought I had really let a demon into the house through the television. It scared me to see an adult acting so ridiculous. Demons aren't real, I tried to tell her. Late that night, as I transfixed my sights on a roach crawling up the wall, I wondered, why me? Why do I have to stay with Thea when June and Dustin don't? Then it hit me. In a panic, I began to think, what if I am Thea Melinda's daughter? And this is why my parents are making me spend so much time with her. My parents would frequently take in my cousins, and we almost always had a relative or a family friend staying with us. What if they took me in too? That winter vacation, I decided to tell my parents I would not stay with Thea after we celebrated Christmas with her. I was terrified my decision was not mine to make, and they would leave me with her anyway. To my surprise, they didn't. When Thea asked me why I wasn't going to stay with her, I clammed up. I was too scared to tell her the truth. Instead, I lied and said I didn't feel well. She knew I was lying. You know, if you don't want to stay with me, you can just say so, Morena. I looked at the floor until she walked away. When I was 20, I graduated college. As a graduation gift, my grandmother gave me a trip to Europe. I needed my birth certificate to get my passport. I asked my mother to dig it out of our family safe. I stood over her shoulder as she looked over documents, bonds, and titles. We found my sister's and then my brother's, but not mine. She couldn't find it. I had to file a request for a copy at the courthouse. It arrived at my college home in San Francisco 2 weeks later. I sat on my bed and opened the brown envelope. Mother, Cecilia Patricia Dronsky. Father, Jeffrey Louis Dronsky.